Thank you.
I need to turn this off.
Okay. No, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so it's the Gospel, chapter 14, honor your father and your mother, and item 4. What I'm going to do, I'm going to read and then open to comments. I'm going to comment a bit and then it's open to everyone else to comment, okay? God said to honor your father and your mother so that you may live a long time in the land that the Lord your God shall give you. Why did he promise earthly life as a recompense and not heavenly life? The explanation lies in the words that God shall give you, which having been omitted in the modern formula of the Decalogues, has altered the meaning. But first, in order to be able to understand clearly, we must go back to the situation and the ideas existing amongst the Hebrews at the time. They still knew nothing of a future life, as they were unable to see anything beyond the physical. They had then to be impressed more by what they saw than by what they could not see. So God spoke to them in a language well within their reach of understanding, and, as one would expect to do with a child, put them into a perspective that could satisfy them. At that time, they were still in the desert. The land to be given by God was the promised land, and the object of their aspirations. They wished for nothing more, and God said that they would live there for a long time. That is to say, they would possess the land for a long time if they kept His commandments. So, honor your father and your mother was a commandment, yeah? And then when he says here that if you honor your father and your mother, you're gonna get the promised land, for them at that time, it meant go to the promised land, the earth, the land actual, yeah? But because of their understanding at the time, they could only obey the commandment if they could see a recompense, a reward, yeah, in what they understood, that was the promised land. So if you honor your father and your mother, if you respect them, if you obey them, or if you respect and obey them, so you're going to get the promised land, and you're going to live there forever, and you're going to be happy ever after, do something like that, a reward. But we know that it's not like that. What I ask myself is, if we still have this kind of view, in a sense, okay, I need to respect my mother and my father as something that you have to do, or is it something that already comes from your heart? It's something that you really want to do? Because what it says here is honor your father and your mother, yeah? Not love your father and your mother. So it's the first step, yeah, for us to understand that we need to honor them in the sense of respecting them and being grateful for what they gave us, that is life, life in incarnate life, yeah, the opportunity to be here and to progress. But also, if we remember what Jesus said about loving your neighbor as you love yourself, or something like that, who is closest to us than our parents, yeah, our father and our mother? So if we really want to go a step beyond, a step further, and not only honor them but love them, we can remember that they are our closest ones, our closest neighbors, yeah, the one who are so. And sometimes it's really difficult for some people, or because our parents are not perfect, father and mother, yeah, and when at least in my experience, when we become parents, that's when we realize, it's really hard, we were not perfect and they were not, they did the best they can, So, and I think nowadays, at least here in the Western world, where everything is, youth is so, it's so important to keep everything young and new, we forget how important it is to honor the past and the traditions in the sense of the ancestors and what they did for us. Because we already know that we are our own descendants, yeah? Because of reincarnation, we are here, but we were maybe our own grand-something some time ago, you know? So in a sense, honoring our father and our mother, honoring our parents, and loving or learning how to love them is honoring life, yeah, itself. And going a step further and going beyond to actually loving God, yeah? It's something for me that's a bit difficult to understand sometimes. How can I love God? Because He's the one who provides everything. He's the one who created me, and how can He get something from me? How can I love Him? So I think a way for us to start learning how to do that is this: honoring the ones who are His how can I say, His proxies or His representatives here on earth. Yeah, they're not perfect like He is, but in a sense they are the ones who created life for us. Yeah, our incarnate life, this one that we have now. Yeah. And then there's a little more here about how Jesus said that. Now, by the time of the advent of Jesus, they had more advanced ideas. The time had come for them to receive less material nourishment, and Jesus himself began to teach about the spiritual life by saying, "My kingdom is not of this world. It is there and not here that you will receive recompense for all the good works you have practiced." With these words, the promised land ceases to be material and transforms itself into a spiritual homeland. This is why, when we are called upon to keep the commandment, "Honor your father and your mother," it's not this world that is promised, but heaven. Okay? Remembering that heaven in a sense of the spiritual world, but also within ourselves. Yeah. So if we are able to do that, we are able to get to the promised land, in a sense. So if anyone else would like to add their comments, you're most welcome.
I think it's a good explanation when you say that you don't actually need to love now, because sometimes you don't love as you should. Let's say your mom or dad, but at least you are grateful for your life, for the opportunity that they gave us to be here. But as long as we see life in this way, isn't it? Because many people, they don't see life in this way. But by valuing your life, your existence, so that's when you are more able to understand how big it was, just opening the door for you. It doesn't. Some doesn't even give kids away, just because they can't cope with the situation at that moment, and then they meet up. There is this program on TV. They meet up later and they kind of reconnect again with themselves because they feel like disconnected. So that's how powerful this connection, even if it's just physical, doesn't have much love in there yet. But the physical connection is there, so that opportunity is for never to forget in your whole existence, isn't it? So you value that.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Go ahead, Sharon.
Okay, I think it goes back to what Caroline was saying also, the prodigal son and the older brother himself. Was he honouring his father? Or was he doing it out of envy, jealousy, or just being there so that he would gain everything else? That's what it comes down to. And then the other son coming back made it that the son who was already there, he wouldn't get what he had his hopes on getting. So I think that he wasn't honouring his father, or even thinking about anything like that. He was just doing it for gain. That's what it sounds to me.
Yeah, not out of gratefulness or
Yeah, it was just more for gain.
Yeah.
What can I get out of this?
Yeah.
What I was about to say is that you talked about ancestors, and what made me think is, as we believe in reincarnation, obviously it could be us being grand something, but I think if we learn to accept that we could have been that person before, that now I descend from, we can learn to learn ourselves as we were at the time and as we are now, because we are constantly changing, and I think that's the most important part. That's why it says honor your father and your mother, in a way that seeing ourselves as spirits, in a way that we are immortal. It could have been us doing that in the past, and now we are making our efforts to change, but it is still a way of loving ourselves as we are now and as we were before. Even if we knew, let's say, we were something bad, we were learning. It's a learning process. Not easy done. It's easier to talk about it and accept in theory, but that's what Spiritism teaches us, to love ourselves no matter what. Even when we were in that state of mind, even in our state of mind today, and tomorrow we'll have another state of mind, hopefully much better than today.
I was going to say there's a book called, sorry, I'm going to say it again, Johnny Jumanji's. It's a book called Psychology of Gratitude that she published, I think about 5 years ago. And this book is incredible. One of the chapters is just focused on this, honor your father and your mother. Because there's a lot of conflict within us. Because remember that we tend to reincarnate with people that we have the most challenging relationships. They're in our house. They're not outside.